Three black SUVs pulled into my circular driveway with the slow deliberation of a funeral procession. I watched from behind the mahogany front door as car doors slammed shut one by one. Uncle Gerald emerged first, his weathered face scanning the marble columns framing my entrance. My father Marcus stepped out next, followed by my mother Eleanor, whose hands trembled as she smoothed her dress. Derek and Amanda, my siblings who had erased me from their lives, stood frozen on the pristine cobblestone. I opened the door wearing nothing more than a simple white button-down and dark jeans. The crystal chandelier cast rainbow reflections across their stunned expressions as I spoke with perfect calm. "Well, this is unexpected. Last I heard, I wasn't family anymore." 10 years earlier, at age 22, I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor of a cramped studio apartment in Cleveland, Ohio. The radiator clanged through winter nights while I studied renewable energy textbooks by lamplight. This wasn't how the Patterson family raised their children. We came from money, tradition, and expectations that felt heavier than iron chains. My father Marcus had built Patterson Construction from a single pickup truck into a multi-million-dollar empire spanning 3 counties. Every morning he wore pressed khakis and steel-toed boots, commanding respect from contractors twice his age. My mother Eleanor descended from railroad money, her great-grandfather having invested wisely in the Pennsylvania Railroad during its golden era. She carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who never questioned whether bills would be paid. Derek, my older brother by 3 years, had slipped seamlessly into the family business after graduating from Case Western with a construction management degree. His office sat adjacent to Dad's, their matching mahogany desks, symbolizing the dynasty they were building together. Amanda, younger by 2 years, was the academic star pursuing pre-med at Northwestern University. Her acceptance letter still hung framed in Mom's kitchen, a daily reminder of Patterson excellence. Then there was me, the anomaly who announced during Christmas dinner that I wanted to revolutionize solar energy instead of pouring concrete foundations. The silverware stopped clinking. Mom's fork remained suspended halfway to her mouth. Dad's face shifted from confusion to disappointment to outright fury. "Solar panels!" He scoffed, setting down his wine glass with excessive force. "Hubert, that's hippie nonsense. Real men build things that last. Concrete steel structures that house families for generations." I tried explaining the environmental necessity, the technological breakthroughs happening in renewable energy, the massive market opportunity ahead. My words bounced off their closed minds like rain on a windshield. "When you're ready to be realistic about your future," Mom said during our final phone conversation, her voice carrying the chill of an Ohio winter, "you can call us." They cut my college funding 3 months before graduation from Ohio State University. $20,000 in student loans became my responsibility overnight. I withdrew from classes watching classmates walk across the graduation stage while I stocked shelves at a hardware store to pay rent. Christmas invitations stopped arriving. Wedding announcements for cousins became memories. My birthday passed each year in silence, marked only by my own calendar notation. I worked 3 jobs: night security at an office building, weekend landscaping for suburban lawns, and tutoring high school students in mathematics. The landscaping job paid $12 per hour, the security work offered $10, and tutoring brought $15 when students showed up consistently. My studio apartment measured 400 square feet of peeling paint and creaking floorboards. The refrigerator hummed constantly, struggling to keep milk cold. My bed doubled as a desk covered with physics textbooks and solar panel schematics during waking hours. I ate peanut butter sandwiches for lunch and ramen noodles for dinner, saving every possible dollar for research materials and patent application fees. Despite the isolation, determination burned inside me like a furnace. Every rejection, every empty holiday, every ignored birthday fueled my commitment to proving them wrong. I converted my apartment's single closet into a makeshift laboratory testing polymer coatings on small photovoltaic cells. My neighbors complained about strange chemical smells, but I pressed forward with the obsession of someone who had nothing left to lose. The final blow came through a local news broadcast. I was eating cereal standing at my kitchen counter when the reporter announced a charity gala at the Shaker Heights Country Club. There was Dad wearing his best tuxedo, raising a champagne glass to celebrate Derek's engagement to Mayor Richardson's daughter. Mom beamed beside them in a navy evening gown I'd never seen before. The camera panned across their table of family friends, all laughing and applauding the happy couple. Not one mention of their missing son. Not even an empty chair. I'd been completely erased from their narrative, edited out of their family story, as if I had never existed at all. 2 years into my exile, I discovered hope in the fluorescent-lit physics lab of Cuyahoga Community College. Evening classes cost a fraction of university tuition, and Professor William Santos possessed the rare combination of genius and patience that defines exceptional teachers. William had worked 15 years at NASA's Glenn Research Center before transitioning to education, bringing decades of hands-on experience with materials science and energy systems. Unlike my family, William saw potential instead of problems. While other students struggled with basic concepts, I absorbed quantum physics and semiconductor theory like a sponge. My questions grew increasingly sophisticated, moving beyond textbook examples toward real-world applications for solar technology advancement. Hubert Williams said, after a particularly intense evening session, "You're asking questions that most graduate students never consider. Have you thought about independent research?" The comment sparked something electric in my consciousness. Independent research meant creating something entirely new, not just studying existing knowledge. William arranged after-hours lab access, trusting me with equipment worth more than my annual income. I spent countless nights experimenting with polymer compositions, seeking the perfect molecular structure to enhance photovoltaic efficiency. The breakthrough emerged during a bitter February evening when campus heating had failed and my breath fogged in the frigid lab air. Mixing titanium dioxide nanoparticles with a novel organic polymer, I created a coating that seemed almost magical in its light-absorbing properties. Under laboratory conditions, my treated solar cells showed efficiency improvements of 38% compared to standard panels. My hands shook as I recorded the data-checking calculations 3 times before accepting the results. 38% represented a revolutionary advancement, potentially transforming the entire renewable energy industry. William arrived at dawn to find me still hunched over test equipment, surrounded by coffee cups and pages of measurements. "Show me everything." He demanded, his scientific excitement overriding normal social pleasantries. We spent the following week verifying results, testing different conditions, and documenting every variable. The improvements held steady across multiple trials, confirming that my polymer coating delivered consistent performance enhancement. William's eyes reflected the same wonder I felt watching energy output numbers climb higher than anyone thought possible. "This is Nobel Prize territory," he whispered, studying the latest batch of efficiency readings. "Hubert, you might have just changed the world." But changing the world required resources I couldn't access from my studio apartment laboratory. Patent applications alone would cost $3,000, representing months of savings from my 3 jobs. Prototype development needed specialized equipment, professional testing facilities, and connections to investors willing to bet on unproven technology. I liquidated everything valuable I owned: my childhood baseball card collection, my grandfather's pocket watch, even my car, which barely ran but still had some resale value. Walking everywhere saved gas money, and I survived on whatever food the tutoring families offered during sessions. My bank account showed exactly $3,200 when I submitted patent paperwork to the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Living on peanut butter sandwiches and ramen noodles for 4 months, I waited for patent approval while continuing to refine my coding formula. William connected me with local investors through his professional network, arranging meetings where I could present my research findings to potentially interested parties. The rejections came swift and brutal. Thomas Bradley, a prominent Cleveland venture capitalist, actually laughed during my presentation. "Kid," he said, not bothering to hide his amusement, "stick to security work. Solar energy is a pipe dream for hippies and environmentalists. Real investors put money into proven industries." Each rejection stung, but they also strengthened my resolve. These people saw a college dropout with crazy ideas, not a brilliant innovation that could revolutionize energy production. Their short-sightedness would become their loss and my opportunity. The worst moment arrived during a chance encounter at the local grocery store. Aunt Patricia, Mom's younger sister who had always been my favorite relative, stood in the produce section examining apples when I approached with genuine excitement. Aunt Patricia, I called, eager to share news about my patent approval and early test results. She looked directly at me, her eyes registering clear recognition before quickly looking away. Grabbing a bag of apples, she hurried toward the checkout lanes without acknowledging my presence. The message was unmistakable. Even extended family had chosen sides, and I remained on the wrong one. That night, alone in my apartment, I stared at my patent certificate and laboratory notebooks filled with breakthrough research. Either I was completely delusional or everyone else was missing something extraordinary. Professor Santos continued believing in my work, and his faith became my anchor during moments of crushing self-doubt. The real validation came 6 months later when we achieved 52% efficiency improvement in controlled laboratory conditions. My polymer coating wasn't just good, it was revolutionary. William's pride was evident as we watched energy readings climb to unprecedented levels. "Hubert," he said, placing a fatherly hand on my shoulder, "you've just obsoleted every solar panel currently in production. The question now is whether you're ready to fight for what you've created." I was more than ready. I was hungry for the battle that would prove my family wrong and change everything. 26 years old and armed with a revolutionary patent, I packed my few belongings into a borrowed pickup truck and drove to Columbus to join Solar Tech Ventures, a startup accelerator specializing in renewable energy innovations. The 3-hour drive felt like crossing into a different universe, leaving behind the weight of family rejection for a world where ideas mattered more than bloodlines. SolarTech operated from a converted warehouse in Columbus's Short North District, its open floor plan buzzing with entrepreneurs, engineers, and investors who spoke the language of innovation fluently. CEO Jennifer Walsh, a former Google executive with silver hair and sharp business instincts, reviewed my application personally after Professor Santos made introductory calls vouching for my research credentials. 52% efficiency improvement. She repeated during our first meeting, studying my laboratory documentation with the intensity of a detective examining evidence. "Hubert, if these numbers are accurate, you're not just starting a company. You're launching an industry transformation." SolarTech provided everything I'd been missing: laboratory space, equipped with professional-grade testing equipment, a monthly stipend of $2,000 for living expenses, and access to their network of investors who actually understood emerging technologies. For the first time since leaving my family, I felt surrounded by people who believed in my potential instead of dismissing my dreams. Building my team became the next crucial step. David Park, a brilliant materials scientist with a PhD from MIT, joined as my chief technology officer after leaving a comfortable research position at General Electric. His expertise in nanotechnology helped refine my polymer formula beyond what I could achieve alone. Lisa Rodriguez brought Stanford MBA credentials and an encyclopedic knowledge of renewable energy markets, becoming our business strategist and head of operations. Her projections showed that widespread adoption of my technology could reduce solar installation costs by 30% while dramatically improving energy output. Robert Chen, our manufacturing expert, had spent 12 years at General Electric optimizing production processes for complex industrial equipment. His experience proved invaluable for scaling laboratory breakthroughs into commercially viable products that could be mass-produced reliably. Together, we formed Green Horizon Technologies with a shared vision of making renewable energy so efficient and affordable that fossil fuels would become economically obsolete. My simple studio apartment laboratory had evolved into a sophisticated research and development operation with 15 employees working toward revolutionary change. Our first major breakthrough came when Redwood Partners, a prominent venture capital firm in Palo Alto, offered $2.5 million in Series A funding. Lead investor Sarah Mitchell, whose portfolio included 3 successful clean tech exits, became both a financial backer and trusted advisor, guiding our strategic decisions. This technology doesn't just improve solar panels, she explained during our funding celebration dinner. It makes solar energy competitive with coal and natural gas on pure economics. That's the holy grail of renewable energy. The funding allowed us to relocate operations to Palo Alto, California, where we established a state-of-the-art research facility and manufacturing pilot program. Hiring expanded to 25 employees, including top engineers recruited from Tesla SunPower and First Solar. Our laboratory could now test full-sized solar panels under simulated real-world conditions, validating performance across different weather patterns and installation scenarios. Industry recognition followed quickly. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory featured our technology in their annual innovation report, praising the unprecedented efficiency gains achieved through novel polymer coating applications. I found myself invited to speak at conferences across the country, sharing our research with audiences of scientists, investors, and industry executives. The Forbes 30 Under 30 recognition arrived via email on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing manufacturing specifications. Seeing my photograph alongside other young innovators felt surreal, especially knowing my family would likely read the article and realize exactly what they had lost when they chose tradition over innovation. Despite the national attention, no word came from Cleveland. No congratulatory calls, no acknowledgement of achievement, not even hostile contact expressing anger about my success. Complete silence spoke volumes about their stubborn pride and inability to admit their devastating mistake. Our technology's commercial validation came through a $50 million contract with Pacific Gas and Electric to retrofit existing solar installations across Northern California. PG&E's engineering team had tested our enhanced panels against every major competitor, confirming that our efficiency improvements translated into substantial electricity generation increases under real operating conditions. Personal growth accompanied professional success. Learning to lead a rapidly growing company, speak confidently at industry conferences, and build relationships with influential investors transformed me from an insecure outcast into a confident entrepreneur. The shy young man who had been rejected by his own family evolved into someone comfortable commanding rooms full of accomplished professionals. The most painful moment of this period occurred during a business trip to Chicago. Walking through O'Hare Airport toward my gate, I spotted Derek near a departure lounge, obviously waiting for a flight back to Cleveland. Our eyes met across the terminal, and his recognition was immediate and unmistakable. For a heartbeat, I thought he might approach, might bridge the gap with some gesture of acknowledgement or even pride in his brother's accomplishments. Instead, Derek turned away, deliberately gathering his carry-on bag and walking in the opposite direction without any sign of recognition. That night alone in my Chicago hotel room, I understood with crystal clarity that my family knew about my success, but had chosen to maintain their rejection anyway. Money, fame, and industry recognition meant nothing compared to their wounded pride and stubborn refusal to admit error. Their loss had become my motivation, and their silence would soon become their regret. By age 28, Green Horizon Technologies had become synonymous with solar innovation, and I faced the defining moment that would either establish my company as an industry leader or expose our technology as overhyped laboratory curiosity. The decision to pursue an initial public offering represented both tremendous opportunity and enormous risk. Investment banks competed aggressively for the privilege of managing our IPO. Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and JP Morgan Chase each presented compelling arguments for their services, but ultimately, we selected Goldman Sachs based on their renewable energy expertise and commitment to sustainable investing principles. The IPO roadshow took us across the country and internationally, presenting our technology to institutional investors in New York, Boston, London, and Hong Kong. Standing before audiences of pension fund managers, mutual fund executives, and sovereign wealth fund representatives, I explained how our polymer coating could revolutionize global energy production while generating substantial returns for early investors. Market response exceeded our most optimistic projections. We priced shares at $42 each, hoping to raise $200 million for expansion and research. Instead, overwhelming demand pushed the opening price to $68 per share, raising $300 million and valuing Green Horizon at over $1 billion. My personal stake, representing 51% ownership, made my net worth exceed $500 million overnight. The college dropout who had once survived on peanut butter sandwiches now possessed wealth that could influence industries and change lives on a massive scale. Corporate partnerships followed immediately. Apple announced plans to power all retail stores with Green Horizon enhanced solar systems. Google signed a $300 million contract for data center installations. Tesla's Elon Musk personally called to discuss integrating our technology into solar roof products, praising the revolutionary efficiency gains that make sustainable energy economically inevitable. These partnerships validated our technology at the highest levels while establishing recurring revenue streams worth billions of dollars annually. Green Horizon wasn't just a successful startup anymore. We had become an essential component of America's transition toward renewable energy independence. My personal investments diversified beyond the company I had founded. Real estate purchases included a stunning penthouse in Manhattan's Upper East Side, a beachfront property in Malibu, and a sprawling ranch in Montana where I could escape technology pressures and reconnect with natural environments. Technology investments focused on early-stage companies developing complementary innovations, advanced battery storage systems, smart grid infrastructure, and electric vehicle charging networks. My venture capital fund, Patterson Ventures, became known for identifying breakthrough technologies that could accelerate sustainable energy adoption. The Montana Ranch provided space for experimental agriculture projects combining solar energy with sustainable farming techniques. Working with agricultural scientists from Montana State University, we developed irrigation systems powered entirely by enhanced solar installations, demonstrating how renewable energy could transform rural communities traditionally dependent on fossil fuels. But the most significant purchase was my Westchester County estate, a breathtaking 12,000 square foot mansion overlooking the Hudson River. The property had belonged to a railroad baron during the Gilded Age, its architectural grandeur reflecting the confidence of American industrial pioneers. 8 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, a wine cellar capable of storing 2,000 bottles, an indoor swimming pool with retractable glass ceiling, and a regulation tennis court created an environment worthy of hosting world leaders and industry titans. The irony wasn't lost on me. A family that had rejected their son for abandoning tradition now watched that same son purchase a home grander than anything Patterson Construction had ever built. The estate's $15 million price tag represented more money than my father's company generated in 2 years of profitable operations. Philanthropic endeavors became increasingly important as my wealth grew. The Patterson Foundation for Science Education, established with an initial endowment of $50 million, provided scholarships for underprivileged students pursuing renewable energy studies. Using my family name for charitable purposes felt like reclaiming something they had tried to take away. Personal relationships proved more challenging than professional success. Dating became complicated when potential partners seemed more interested in my net worth than my personality. Several relationships ended badly when I discovered women researching my financial status online before our first meetings. Then I met Dr. Angela Thompson at a medical conference where I was speaking about solar power applications in hospital settings. A pediatric surgeon at Mount Sinai Hospital, Angela possessed the intelligence, compassion, and independence that money couldn't buy. Our first conversation lasted 3 hours, covering everything from renewable energy policy to childhood development theories, and she never once asked about my wealth or business ventures. Angela's apartment in Manhattan's Upper West Side reflected her values: bookshelves filled with medical journals and classic literature artwork from local artists and photographs from medical mission trips to Central America. Her refrigerator contained takeout menus from neighborhood restaurants rather than expensive gourmet foods, and her closet held practical clothing suitable for long hospital shifts. Our relationship developed slowly, built on mutual respect and shared values rather than financial attraction. Angela challenged my thinking, supported my philanthropic interests, and provided perspective during stressful business periods. For the first time since childhood, I felt genuinely loved for who I was rather than what I possessed. Meanwhile, industry intelligence networks kept me informed about Patterson Construction's declining fortunes. The construction industry was shifting rapidly towards sustainable building practices, green certifications, and renewable energy integration. Traditional contractors who refused to adapt found themselves losing major projects to environmentally focused competitors. My father's company, built on conventional construction methods and fossil fuel dependence, struggled to compete in this new landscape. Major clients increasingly demanded LEED-certified buildings, powered by renewable energy system specifications that Patterson Construction couldn't meet without substantial investment in new technologies and training. Derek's management decisions made their situation worse. Unlike Dad, who had built the company through careful relationship building and quality craftsmanship, Derek pursued aggressive expansion funded by high-interest loans. His gambling habit, which family members tried to hide, created additional financial pressures that threatened the company's stability. Amanda's medical school loans exceeded $200,000, and her academic performance suffered under the stress of financial uncertainty. Without family support, she worked multiple part-time jobs while studying, affecting her grades and clinical rotations. The golden daughter was discovering that life outside the family safety net could be brutally difficult. Mom and Dad were considering mortgaging their family home, the same house where they had rejected me during that Christmas dinner years earlier. The irony was devastating. Their financial security depended on the same renewable energy industry they had dismissed as hippie nonsense when I announced my career intentions. The most pathetic moment came through LinkedIn, where Derek sent a connection request accompanied by a transparent message: "Hey brother, heard about your success through mutual friends. Maybe we should catch up sometime and see how we can support each other." His desperation was so obvious that responding felt unnecessary. They had made their choice 10 years earlier, and now they wanted to rewrite history for their own benefit. But I wasn't ready to make things easy for them, not yet. 3 months before my family's unannounced arrival, I hired private investigator Rachel Foster to provide detailed surveillance reports on their increasingly desperate situation. Rachel had worked 15 years for the FBI before establishing her own firm specializing in corporate intelligence and family background investigations. Her reports painted a picture of financial ruin accelerated by poor decisions and stubborn pride. Patterson Construction faced bankruptcy within 6 months, unless they secured immediate capital injection of at least $2 million. Major clients had canceled contracts after Derek's subcontractors failed inspections for environmental compliance violations. The company's reputation, built carefully over 30 years by my father, was crumbling under Derek's incompetent leadership and gambling-fueled decision-making. Derek's addiction had progressed beyond casual weekend poker games to high-stakes gambling at underground venues throughout Cleveland and Pittsburgh. According to Rachel's sources, he owed approximately $400,000 to Vincent Torino, a loan shark with connections to organized crime families. Torino's collection methods involved escalating intimidation tactics that had already included threatening phone calls and visits to Derek's workplace. Amanda had dropped out of Case Western Medical School during her final year, unable to afford tuition payments while working 3 part-time jobs to cover living expenses. Her academic advisor had offered extensions and payment plans, but the financial pressure proved overwhelming. Years of studying to become a pediatric surgeon had ended in failure, leaving her working as a medical assistant for $12 per hour. Mom and Dad were forced to mortgage their family estate, the symbol of Patterson's success, that had hosted countless holiday gatherings and business celebrations. The mortgage barely covered Derek's immediate debts, leaving them vulnerable to foreclosure if his gambling debts continued growing. Their retirement savings, accumulated over 40 years of hard work, had been depleted to keep the construction company operating. The first attempt at contact came through Aunt Patricia, the same woman who had snubbed me at the grocery store years earlier. She called my corporate headquarters, speaking with my assistant, and claiming a family emergency required immediate communication with me. Her voice carried the desperation of someone making a last resort phone call. "Please tell Hubert that his family needs to speak with him urgently." Patricia pleaded with Jennifer, my executive assistant. "There are important matters we need to discuss, and we hope he can find time in his busy schedule." Jennifer followed my instructions, precisely, politely explaining that my international business commitments made personal calls impossible to schedule immediately. We would review the request and respond appropriately through proper channels. The formality was intentional, treating family members like any other business contact seeking my attention. Their social media stalking became increasingly obvious and embarrassing. Derek and Amanda began liking and commenting on my professional posts from years past, creating an artificial appearance of ongoing family connection. Derek commented, "So proud of my brilliant brother," on a 3-year-old Forbes article about my technology breakthrough. Amanda shared an old LinkedIn post about our company's charitable donations with the caption, "Amazing work by my incredible brother." Their transparent attempts at historical revisionism were pathetic, especially since anyone with internet access could verify that my social media accounts showed no family interactions during the previous 10 years. They were essentially lying in public forums, hoping potential observers would believe we maintained close relationships despite years of mutual silence. Mom's handwritten letter arrived at my corporate address on cream-colored stationery embossed with her initials. The careful cursive handwriting spoke of preparation and multiple drafts, each word chosen for maximum emotional manipulation. She wrote about missing her baby boy and wanting to heal old wounds that had grown too large, mentioning family memories, while carefully avoiding any acknowledgement of their cruel rejection. The letter reeked of desperation disguised as maternal love. She mentioned Dad's health concerns, Derek's temporary business setbacks, and Amanda's brief interruption in medical school, all presented as recent developments requiring family unity. No admission of error, no acknowledgement of pain, caused just manipulation wrapped in nostalgia. Angela read the letter during dinner at our favorite Manhattan restaurant, her medical training allowing her to recognize emotional manipulation tactics with clinical precision. "This is textbook crisis communication," she observed, folding the letter carefully. "Everything is framed as temporary and external circumstances, nothing acknowledging personal responsibility or genuine remorse. She's treating you like a resource to be accessed during emergencies." Her professional objectivity helped me maintain perspective when family loyalty instincts threatened my judgment. Angela understood that healthy relationships required mutual respect and genuine care, not desperate financial necessity, masquerading as love. Rachel Foster's surveillance revealed their most alarming development: the family had hired their own private investigator to locate my home address and daily routine. Security cameras at my Westchester estate detected unmarked vehicles conducting reconnaissance on multiple occasions, photographing entrance gates, and studying visitor patterns. They were planning an unannounced visit, believing face-to-face confrontation would be harder to refuse than phone calls and letters. The strategy showed their complete misunderstanding of my personality and their relationship to me. I wasn't avoiding them due to busy scheduling. I was protecting myself from people who had demonstrated their capacity for emotional cruelty. Preparation for their inevitable arrival became a strategic exercise. I scheduled a romantic dinner with Angela for the evening, knowing they would likely arrive during daytime hours when business meetings typically occurred. Having witnesses to their desperation and my composed response seemed important for establishing the power dynamic that would govern any future interactions. My private security team received discreet instructions about potential uninvited guests. Rather than preventing their access, I wanted them to feel welcome while understanding they were being monitored. The psychological pressure of visiting someone wealthy enough to afford professional security would reinforce their dependent position. Despite my success and careful preparation, genuine anxiety accompanied thoughts of seeing them after 10 years of silence. Old wounds never fully healed, regardless of external achievements or emotional armor constructed through therapy and success. The scared 22-year-old who had been rejected still existed somewhere inside me, wondering if their approval might finally be possible. The morning of their arrival brought an anonymous phone tip that changed everything. Someone, possibly a Patterson construction employee or one of Derek's creditors, called to warn me that Derek owed money to dangerous people who were threatening physical violence. His gambling debts weren't just financial problems anymore. They represented immediate safety concerns for anyone associated with him. This information reframed their visit entirely. They weren't just seeking financial help from their successful relative. They were running from immediate physical danger, making their visit an act of pure desperation rather than genuine family reconciliation. Their timing wasn't coincidental, it was survival-driven. Understanding their true motivation helped me prepare emotionally for what would undoubtedly be a dramatic confrontation, years in the making. The 3 black SUVs appeared on my security monitors at exactly 11:30 on a Tuesday morning, moving slowly up my circular driveway like a funeral procession approaching sacred ground. I watched from my study window as car doors opened with deliberate caution, revealing 5 family members I hadn't seen in person for 10 years. Marcus emerged first from the lead vehicle, his 70-year-old frame noticeably frailer than I remembered. His once commanding presence had diminished shoulders, slightly stooped, and movements careful rather than confident. Eleanor followed, wearing her best navy dress and clutching a small purse with white-knuckled hands. Her perfectly styled gray hair couldn't mask the anxiety written across features that had once radiated maternal warmth. Derek stepped out of the second SUV, his athletic build softened by years of stress-eating and sedentary work. His face carried the puffy appearance of someone drinking too much while sleeping too little, and his eyes darted nervously between my mansion's impressive facade and the security cameras monitoring their every movement. Amanda emerged last, wearing professional attire that couldn't quite hide the exhaustion of someone working multiple jobs while struggling to maintain dignity. Her medical school confidence had been replaced by the defeated posture of dreams deferred indefinitely, and she avoided making eye contact with the imposing architecture surrounding them. Aunt Patricia completed the delegation, her presence serving as emotional support rather than direct negotiation. She had aged considerably since our grocery store encounter, worry lines etched deeply around eyes that once sparkled with family pride. I took a deliberate breath, smoothed my simple, white button-down shirt, and walked to the front entrance. The mahogany door, hand-carved by European craftsmen and worth more than most people's annual salaries, swung open to reveal my family's shocked expressions. The crystal chandelier behind me cast rainbow reflections across marble floors, while oil paintings by renowned artists adorned walls that stretched toward cathedral ceilings. "Well, this is unexpected," I said with practiced calm, my voice carrying neither anger nor warmth. "Last I heard, I wasn't family anymore." The words hit them like physical blows. Marcus actually stepped backward, his weathered hands trembling as he absorbed the stark contrast between my understated confidence and their obvious desperation. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears that she struggled to control, her maternal instincts warring with the pride that had kept us separated. Derek's face cycled through multiple emotions: shock, envy, regret, and calculating hope as he evaluated my wealth and considered how it might solve his immediate problems. Amanda simply stared, her medical training, probably analyzing my psychological state while processing the reality of her brother's transformation from family outcast to titan of industry. Hubert, Marcus finally managed, his voice carrying uncertainty rather than the commanding tone I remembered from childhood. "You look well, very well indeed." The understatement was almost comical. I looked successful, confident, and completely in control of circumstances that clearly intimidated them. My simple clothing choice was intentional, demonstrating that my confidence came from internal sources rather than external displays of wealth. "I suppose you didn't drive 6 hours just to admire the landscaping," I replied, stepping aside to gesture them into my home. "Please come inside." The entrance hall's impact was immediate and overwhelming. Imported marble floors reflected light from the crystal chandelier, while a curved staircase with hand-forged iron railings swept upward toward the second floor. Original paintings by American masters adorned walls, and fresh flowers, arranged by professional decorators, added color to the monochromatic elegance. Their eyes moved constantly, absorbing details that represented wealth beyond their previous comprehension. The Persian rug beneath their feet cost more than most cars. The grandfather clock in the corner had been crafted in Switzerland by artisans whose waiting lists extended years into the future. Even the door handles were custom designed by artists whose work graced museums. "This is beautiful, Hubert," Patricia said, her voice unnaturally high with nervous energy. "Just absolutely stunning." Her attempt at normal conversation felt forced, like someone commenting on weather during a tornado. Everyone understood we weren't gathered to discuss interior design, but nobody seemed ready to address the real reasons for their unannounced visit. I led them into the living room, where floor-to-ceiling windows showcased manicured gardens stretching toward the Hudson River. Handcrafted furniture arranged in conversation groupings provided comfort without ostentation, while built-in bookcases displayed first-edition volumes and scientific journals. The room's design communicated intellectual sophistication rather than flashy wealth. "Please sit wherever you're comfortable." I offered, settling into my favorite leather armchair with the relaxed posture of someone completely at ease in his own domain. They perched awkwardly on the edges of Italian leather sofas, their formal posture reflecting discomfort that extended far beyond unfamiliar surroundings. Amanda complimented the room's design while avoiding direct eye contact. Derek examined expensive details with obvious envy, probably calculating market values for everything within view. Eleanor broke first tears flowing freely as decades of suppressed maternal instinct overwhelmed her pride. Hubert, sweetheart, I made terrible mistakes. I missed my son so much, and I just want us to be a family again. Her emotion seemed genuine, but I recognized manipulation tactics learned during childhood. Eleanor had always used tears, strategically weaponizing maternal love to achieve desired outcomes. My heart wanted to respond to her pain, but my mind remained analytically detached. That's interesting, I replied with deliberate calm. I don't remember any contact during the past 10 years expressing those feelings. Not during holidays, birthdays, or even when I appeared on national television, receiving industry awards. Marcus cleared his throat, attempting to regain control of the conversation through traditional patriarchal authority. Son, we let pride get in the way of good judgment. Perhaps we were too hasty in our reactions, but families should support each other during difficult times. His words revealed the true purpose of their visit. This wasn't about reconciliation or genuine remorse. It was about accessing resources during their personal crisis. They needed my money, not my forgiveness. Derek finally found courage to speak directly. Hubert, I know we have history that needs addressing, but I'm facing some business challenges that temporary financial support could resolve. Family businesses sometimes need help from family members who have been fortunate in their ventures. His euphemistic language was almost insulting. Business challenges and temporary financial support sanitize the reality of gambling addiction and loan shark debts. Fortunate in their ventures dismissed years of hard work, innovation, and perseverance as lucky breaks rather than earned success. Interesting perspective, I said, allowing silence to stretch uncomfortably. What specific challenges are we discussing? The truth emerged gradually like poison seeping from an infected wound. Derek admitted owing money to difficult people who were becoming impatient about repayment schedules. Amanda confessed that medical school had become financially impossible without family support. Mom and Dad acknowledged mortgaging their home to cover business expenses. With each revelation, their desperation became more apparent, and their position more vulnerable. They sat in my home surrounded by evidence of wealth they had forfeited through their own stubborn pride, begging for assistance from someone they had treated like an embarrassment. I'm curious, I said, maintaining my composed tone. How did you learn about my address? My personal information isn't publicly available. Their uncomfortable glances revealed the surveillance operation Rachel Foster had detected. They had hired investigators to locate me, treating our reunion as a business transaction, requiring intelligence gathering rather than genuine family reconciliation. We hired someone to help us find you, Marcus admitted reluctantly. We wanted to approach you properly but weren't sure how to make contact. Yet you chose an unannounced visit over a simple phone call or letter, I pressed. That seems like an unusual approach for people genuinely interested in rebuilding relationships. Before anyone could respond, Angela's key turned in the front door lock. She entered wearing her hospital scrubs fresh from a 12-hour shift, treating pediatric patients her natural warmth and confidence, a stark contrast to my family's nervous energy. Oh, she said, surprised but not uncomfortable with unexpected guests. I didn't realize you had visitors. I stood to kiss her cheek, introducing her to my family with deliberate pride. Angela, these are my parents, Marcus and Eleanor, my siblings Derek and Amanda, and my Aunt Patricia. Everyone, this is Dr. Angela Thompson, my girlfriend. Angela's genuine smile and confident handshake demonstrated the grace of someone comfortable in any social situation. Her medical credentials and obvious intelligence impressed them immediately, while her clear affection for me showcased the loving relationship they had never thought I deserved. It's wonderful to meet Hubert's family, she said warmly. He's told me so much about his childhood in Cleveland. Her polite lie was perfectly delivered, allowing everyone to save face, while subtly emphasizing the absence of recent family contact. Angela understood the power dynamics at play and positioned herself as my supportive partner rather than neutral observer. The contrast was devastating. They had rejected me when I needed family support, and now they witnessed me surrounded by love, success, and respect from someone whose opinion actually mattered. Their disapproval had become irrelevant, while their approval was no longer necessary. Derek's face reflected the full impact of our reversed positions. The brother who had once been favored son now sat in my home begging for financial assistance while watching me enjoy the kind of relationship and respect he had never achieved. His gambling addiction and poor decisions had destroyed the advantages he'd been born with, while my rejection from the family had become the catalyst for unprecedented success. Amanda seemed to understand most clearly how completely their situation had changed. Her medical training helped her recognize the psychological dynamics of power dependency and family trauma playing out in my living room. She alone appeared to grasp that money wouldn't solve their fundamental problems. "Hubert," she said quietly, "I know we can't undo the past, but maybe we could find a way to move forward together. I realize now that we made terrible mistakes and I'm sorry for my part in them." Her apology felt more genuine than the others carrying acknowledgement of specific actions rather than vague regrets about misunderstandings. Amanda had always been the most emotionally intelligent family member, and her words carried weight that Derek's desperate bargaining and Mom's manipulative tears couldn't match. The moment had arrived for my response, the culmination of 10 years of pain growth and hard-earned wisdom. Their faces reflected hope, fear, and desperate anticipation as they waited for my decision about their financial future and family reconciliation. But I wasn't ready to make things easy for them, not yet. The weight of their expectations filled my living room like a physical presence, 10 years of accumulated consequences waiting for resolution. I looked at each family member individually, seeing not the powerful figures who had once intimidated me, but broken people who had finally discovered the cost of their choices. "Before we discuss any assistance," I said, settling back into my chair with the calm authority of someone holding all the cards, "we need to establish some fundamental truths. I didn't become successful to prove anything to you. I became successful despite you." The words cut deep, but they needed to understand that their approval was no longer the prize I had once desperately sought. Success had taught me that validation from people who couldn't recognize my worth was worthless currency. However, I continued watching hope flicker in their eyes. "I'm not interested in perpetuating this family's dysfunction. If we're going to rebuild relationships, we'll do it properly with clear expectations and genuine accountability." Angela moved to stand beside my chair, her presence providing emotional support while demonstrating that I was no longer the isolated young man they had rejected. I had built a life filled with love, respect, and meaningful connections, making their re-entry conditional rather than desperate. "Derek." I addressed my brother directly. "Your gambling addiction ends today. You'll enter a residential treatment program at Hazelden Betty Ford Center in Minnesota. I'll cover the cost, but you'll surrender control of your finances to a professional money manager until you complete 2 years of recovery." His face reflected resistance warring with desperation. Gambling had become his escape from responsibility, and treatment meant confronting problems he preferred to avoid. But Vincent Torino's threats made arguments academic. "Amanda, you'll return to medical school with full financial support, but you'll maintain a B+ average while attending mandatory family therapy sessions. Your dream of becoming a pediatric surgeon is still achievable, but it requires discipline you haven't demonstrated recently." Her relief was immediate and genuine. Medical school represented not just career ambitions, but personal redemption proof that Patterson excellence could still be achieved through legitimate effort rather than family privilege. Mom Dad Patterson Construction will be acquired by Green Horizon Technologies. You'll receive enough money to pay your debts and maintain comfortable retirement, but Derek will start in an entry-level position after completing treatment. No special privileges, no fast-track advancement, just opportunities to prove himself through honest work. Marcus struggled with relinquishing control of his life's work, but bankruptcy offered no alternatives. The construction industry's shift towards sustainable building practices required expertise his company lacked, making acquisition preferable to dissolution. Most importantly, I continued, all of you will attend family therapy together. Not because I require it for financial assistance, but because broken relationships require professional guidance to heal properly. Dr. Sarah Chen at the Family Therapy Institute specializes in addiction, financial trauma, and communication patterns that destroy families. Eleanor nodded through her tears, understanding that therapy represented hope rather than punishment. Their family dynamics had become toxic, and professional intervention offered the only path toward genuine healing. Patricia, I addressed my aunt. You're welcome to join therapy sessions if you choose. Your role in this family's problems was passive rather than active, but silence enabled their behavior toward me. Her grateful nod indicated understanding and acceptance. Rebuilding trust required addressing everyone's contributions to our family's dysfunction, including those who had stood aside while cruelty occurred. I have one final requirement, I said, standing to retrieve a document from my desk. I want each of you to sign this family charter outlining our commitment to treating each other with respect, honesty, and genuine care. It's not legally binding, but it's symbolically important. The charter contains simple principles: honest communication without manipulation, financial transparency to prevent future crises, regular family meetings to address problems before they escalated, and mutual support for individual growth and recovery. Nothing revolutionary, just basic human decency formalized in writing. One by one, they signed the document with trembling hands, understanding that their signatures represented more than symbolic gestures. They were committing to fundamental changes in behavior, attitude, and family dynamics. Angela squeezed my shoulder as I watched my family take their first steps toward redemption. Her medical background had taught her that healing required time, commitment, and professional guidance. But genuine recovery was possible when people accepted responsibility for their actions. 6 months later, the transformation was remarkable, but incomplete. Derek had completed residential treatment and was working construction, alongside experienced crews, his hands developing calluses for the first time in years. His supervisor reported excellent attendance and willingness to learn, though recovery remained a daily struggle requiring constant vigilance. Amanda thrived during her final year of medical school, her grades reflecting the excellence she was capable of achieving when stress about finances didn't dominate her thoughts. Her acceptance into a competitive pediatric surgery residency program validated years of hard work and natural talent. Mom and Dad attended weekly therapy sessions religiously, slowly learning to communicate honestly about their fears, disappointments, and hopes for family relationships. Decades of dysfunction wouldn't disappear quickly, but professional guidance provided tools for healthier interactions. Patterson Construction's integration into Green Horizon Technologies proceeded smoothly, with Marcus serving as a consultant, while experienced managers handled daily operations. His knowledge of local building practices, combined with our sustainable technology, created opportunities for innovative projects that honored tradition while embracing progress. The most meaningful change occurred during family dinners at my estate. Not monthly galas designed to impress visitors, but simple meals where 5 people shared honest conversations about their lives, struggles, and dreams. Angela often joined us, her warmth helping heal wounds that had seemed permanent. Hubert, Dad said, during one particularly poignant evening, I owe you an apology that goes beyond what we discussed in therapy. I was wrong about renewable energy, wrong about your potential, and wrong about what constitutes real success. His words carried the weight of genuine regret, acknowledging not just tactical errors, but fundamental misjudgments about my character and vision. Hearing him admit error felt more valuable than any financial success I had achieved. I spent so many years believing that construction was about building things that last, he continued. I never understood that you were building something bigger, a future where my grandchildren might inherit a livable planet. Mom reached across the table to squeeze my hand, her touch carrying the maternal love I had craved during years of isolation. Your father and I thought we were protecting family traditions, but we were really just protecting our own pride. You were brave enough to choose a difficult path, and we were too stubborn to support you. The conversations weren't always easy. Family therapy had taught us that honest communication sometimes involved painful truths about past hurts and present challenges. But gradually, we learned to address problems directly, rather than allowing resentment to poison relationships. Derek's recovery remained fragile, marked by good days and difficult ones, but his commitment to change seemed genuine. He spoke openly about the shame that had driven his gambling addiction, the pressure of living up to family expectations, while lacking his father's natural business instincts. I always knew you were smarter than me, he admitted during one family session. Dad's success made me feel like I had to prove myself worthy of inheriting the business, but I was never comfortable with the responsibility. Gambling became an escape from feeling inadequate. His honesty created space for my own vulnerability. I spent years trying to prove you all wrong instead of simply pursuing what felt right to me. Success became about revenge rather than purpose, and that wasn't healthy for anyone. Angela's influence on our family dynamics was subtle but profound. Her medical training helped her recognize emotional patterns and communication problems, while her natural warmth made everyone feel comfortable sharing difficult feelings. She became the neutral party who could offer perspective without taking sides. Healthy families don't keep score, she observed during one particularly intense discussion. They support each other during difficult times and celebrate together during good ones. The past can't be changed, but the future depends on choices you make today. Her wisdom guided us toward forgiveness that felt genuine rather than forced. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting past hurts or pretending they hadn't mattered. It was about choosing to build something better from the broken pieces of our relationships. The life lesson crystallized slowly as our family healed. Success without genuine human connection feels hollow, but human connection without mutual respect is meaningless. True wealth comes from relationships built on love, honesty, and respect, rather than obligation, desperation, or manipulation. I had spent years believing that financial success would validate my worth and prove my family wrong. Instead, I discovered that my worth was independent of their approval, and my success was meaningful only when shared with people who genuinely cared about my well-being. The solar technology that had made me wealthy was ultimately about creating a sustainable future for humanity. Similarly, rebuilding my family relationships required sustainable practices, honest communication, mutual respect, and commitment to each other's growth and healing. Money had given me the power to help my family during their crisis, but it couldn't repair the emotional damage that years of rejection had caused. That healing required time, professional guidance, and genuine effort from everyone involved. Angela helped me understand that forgiveness benefited the forgiver more than the forgiven. Holding on to resentment had been poisoning my own happiness, preventing me from fully enjoying the success and love I had worked so hard to achieve. Your family's rejection pushed you to become someone extraordinary, she pointed out during one of our evening walks. But now that you've achieved everything you dreamed of, what do you want to do with that power? The answer became clear as our family healing progressed. I wanted to use my success to create opportunities for others who had been dismissed or underestimated. The Patterson Foundation expanded its mission to support not just renewable energy research, but programs helping disadvantaged young people pursue their dreams despite family opposition or financial constraints. Our family dinners became symbols of redemption and possibility. 5 people who had once caused each other tremendous pain now gathered monthly to share honest conversations and genuine affection. The empty chair that had once represented my absence was filled with love, laughter, and hope for the future. Hope for success had taught me that some victories are worth fighting for, but the most meaningful victories involve lifting others up rather than proving them wrong. My family's redemption wasn't complete recovery and healing, take years, not months, but their commitment to change felt genuine and sustainable. The mansion that had initially intimidated them became a place of refuge and celebration, hosting birthday parties, holiday gatherings, and quiet family conversations that honored both our painful past and hopeful future. True wealth, I learned, wasn't measured in square footage or stock portfolios, but in the depth of relationships and the strength of connections built on authentic love and mutual respect. As I looked around my dining room table one evening, watching my family share stories about their daily lives while Angela served homemade dessert, I understood that forgiveness had set us all free. Free from the past's limitations, free from resentment's poison, and free to build something beautiful from the broken pieces of what we had lost. Have you ever experienced a relationship that seemed permanently broken, but found a way to heal? Family dynamics can be incredibly complex, and forgiveness doesn't always mean forgetting the past or accepting unacceptable behavior. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is set clear boundaries while leaving the door open for genuine change and growth. I'd love to hear your thoughts about family forgiveness, second chances, and how success changes relationships in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more stories about overcoming adversity and finding redemption. And don't forget to share this with someone who might need to hear that it's possible to rebuild what seems irreparably broken. Thank you for joining me on this journey from rejection to reconciliation. Remember that your worth isn't determined by other people's inability to see your potential, and sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones who need our compassion when they're finally ready to change. Until next time, may you find the courage to forgive without forgetting the wisdom your struggles have taught you.